Welcome back to another episode of Create Explain. Today I have this working port with a lot of Create components. Exciting, yes. And I'm thinking we're going to go with the order of which I built them, and this is going to be the first one, which is going to be my wool factory. And this, as by the name, it produces wool. Now, during the episode, I actually built this wrong, where I had the deployers sitting at these polished deep slate here, but that means they're one block too close to the sheep, as there has to be a block in between them. So I had to change it up and put the deployers below the sheep, which isn't really where I wanted it, but that's where they had to go. And that's something that you should keep in mind if you're making one of these farms. But other than that, it's a very simple farm. We just have a simple rotation. We have a belt here going around with shears that we input from this chest right up here. On each of the deployers, we have a funnel which outputs only wool, and it's blacklisted shears so that it doesn't take the shears out of the deployers. Then these mechanical arms above that grabs it and puts it into the barrels above. Obviously, if you could do something simpler than having the arms, you could just use conveyor belts, but I really wanted the barrels up here next to the color of glass and, well, to symbolize which color sheep it is. So this is how I did it. Before we take a look at our dye factory, let's look at what makes this port working. And that is this boat right here, which if we hop into the driver's seat, we can actually move, and that's amazing. And well, this boat doesn't just go anywhere, as it goes out to my gunpowder farm to pick up gunpowder. And I think this is a really cool use of the boat, so it isn't just used for decoration only. Because I don't have any places to actually transfer items in my world, I can go and pick them up from this little farm that's quite a far way from my base. But the crate here is super simple. It's just a belt feeding it, and then there's some barrels hidden in the hull of it. And while we're here, if you want to know how this works, it's a few glass panes on the bottom here connected to a terrain that sits below the seabed, or well, on the ocean it's a little above, but in the rivers it actually looks like it's just a regular boat. And you can see the track here in front of the boat. And this is obviously something that you can't just use for boats. You can make planes, cars, maybe moving chariots if that's what you want. And it's definitely something that helps if you have steam and rails, because then you can use the phantom track so you don't have to hide it in the ground. But back here, let's take a look at the dye factory. And we have a train here that delivers cactus, charcoal, and bones. Those are the three items this farm needs to work, and I'll show you where the input comes from in just a sec. Sadly, in Create, I couldn't find a way to make any of the blue dice, so those aren't here. But what happens is that all of the items comes in on this belt here, goes up to this little area here, where in the first one we have the cactus dropping down to be cooked into lime dye, I was gonna say, but it's green dye. Then we have the bones here being crushed twice into bone meal, and we have the charcoal being crushed once. Crushing charcoal gives you both black and gray dye, and crushing bone meal gives you both white and light gray dye, which isn't that one, but it's here. Which means we already have 5 of the 13 dyes we're making here. All of these go in, and some of them all get siphoned off into the storage, but white and green is also taken over this belt. You can see some green laying here. I don't have any bones currently because I actually have to make or stand at the bone farm to make those, but they dropped out here where some lime dye is created and also moved over into the storage. In this tunnel up here, I'm also splitting off some bones to go across here and into 4 different millstones where they get processed into bone meal, which are then used on 2 tall flowers. This then produces another 2 tall flower, which drops into this hopper here and gets crushed once more. And if we look at all of the 2 tall flowers here, we get pink and magenta from peony, we get magenta and purple from lilac, and we get orange and yellow from the sunflower, and we get red and a little bit more green from the rose bushes. And I don't think... yeah, there is actually some in there, so you can actually see that going, and then all of the dice just goes into the storage. And that creates all of the dice that we are using in this world, and that is amazing. This here is also a barrel, which, if we just pop down on the ground here, is where all of the gunpowder from the gunpowder farm gets loaded into. As we hear the train going through, we can check out the 3 inputs into this farm, where the first one comes right here from our bone farm, which I need to stand at to actually make some bones, which is why I don't have any in the system over there. But super simple, just bringing it over here and delivering it into the train. The next step on the train journey, and I'm realizing now that I'm out of charcoal, is right up here in this tunnel where it gets loaded with charcoal. This charcoal is actually brought from all the way over here by the lumber factory, And it's not spinning because it's powered off because I don't need any wood. Or wait, why isn't it spinning? There's a whole belt missing. Oh. Okay, but that's something I'll fix a little later, as this is our cactus input here, and there's just a barrel in the wall, which one of these arms here deploys cactus into, and all of this has a little bit of logic to lock these when the storages at the dye factory is actually full. And here the train comes, and you'll see that in action in just a second here. There you go. There's not that much cactus. And the train schedule isn't too complicated. It's just going to all of the station. There are two little odd spots, this one being one of them, where it has to go in here to turn around because I want them facing specific directions. But you can just use an extra train station and have it there for just a tick or something like that. And then it can continue on, and it will actually go backwards if you have train controls in both direction and you face one of the train tracks or the train station. You face it in the direction like the train would go into it backwards. I hope that makes sense. There's a lot of good guides on YouTube if you ever need help with trains though. But that was a lot of explaining because we did a lot of create. So now let's move on to the question of the day. And that is how I stay motivated playing this game. And if I have any tips on how to keep playing in your worlds. Staying motivated in Minecraft is actually really hard, and I've, like probably many of you watching this, has struggled a lot with it. And the way I stay motivated is making these videos for y'all. If I weren't making these videos, I'd probably be off playing other games, doing other things, but I really enjoy making these videos, and that's how I stay motivated and keep on finishing projects left, right, and center. I'm definitely not going to suggest that being a YouTuber is how you're going to stay motivated playing Minecraft, because that is definitely not everyone's cup of tea. You might enjoy it, so, you know, it's always worth giving it a shot, but it's definitely not what I would suggest if someone asked me. I would, however, highly recommend sharing whatever you are doing in your world. It can be with a couple of friends. There are a lot of Discords where channels have post your builds chat where you can post pictures of your builds, talk to people, get some feedback, and stay motivated that way. My Discord is one of those that has one of those channels. Another one that I've used in the past has been Fwip's Discord, and especially if you're looking for some feedback, his community has some amazing builders. You could also share it to Instagram, TikTok, maybe YouTube Shorts if you don't want to be a full-on YouTuber. There's a lot of ways to do it. Maybe even try streaming. But obviously, you don't have to share what you make to enjoy this game. There are a lot of other ways, and one is definitely planning your world. Setting up some goals for yourself, like getting gear. That would be one. And then a lot of people lose motivation. So what are you going to do after you get that gear? Are you going to build something? What are you going to build? If you build that, you need to build something else. Something I try to focus on when building in my world is thinking about what the world needs. And that's how I come up with a lot of my new projects. I also look at YouTube and see what other people are doing and seeing what people are currently interested in. But for example, this power station over here, I was in need of power in my world, so I built the power station. And that was fun for me for 2 weeks. So planning out your builds and knowing what you want with your world before even starting it is definitely one of my biggest tips to play and stay more motivated in this game. But also saying that if you have plans, keep in mind that they're not set in stone. If you want to do something else, then do something else. You shouldn't limit yourself, and just because you made some plans, you should try to enjoy the game and just play it as you want. And on that note as well, another very important thing, if you are doing a project, okay, thanks train. If you're doing a project and you're not enjoying it and you're forcing yourself to finish it, I wouldn't do it. I force myself to finish a lot of projects, but that's because I want to release an end product to you guys. And well, that's my motivation, to finish my projects. But most of the time, there's no one forcing you to finish your project. So if you're just not feeling that project at the time you're working on it, just move on to something else. I think you'll have a lot more fun moving from project to project. And hey, you might not get everything done all the time, but you're going to have a lot more fun playing the game, and well, you're probably actually going to play the game. And that's my take on how I stay motivated in this game and how maybe you could stay motivated in this game. But there's a lot of different things. Mine is very focused on building because that's what I enjoy doing. But if you just don't enjoy building, there are a lot of other things, but I'm probably not the guy to tell you. And this was probably a little longer episode of Create Explain, but thanks so very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye. Also, sneak peek on the next video right behind me there. I know, right?